Morning everyone, and a bit of a different location today. I'm in our local leisure centre in Grantham, which is a terrific pool. So why am I in the swimming pool? At the moment I can't run because of my chemotherapy. My cycling's absolutely dreadful, but I can swim, and I have swum for quite a long time. I've been with the local tri club since 2016, and so my swimming, I could do an Ironman swim in probably under 1 hour 15. As you can see on the sides here, I swam Lake Coniston, which is 8.5k, and I did that in under 3 hours. So while I'm not super fast, I can swim, and I've learned how technique can make swimming a real pleasure. So that's what this video is about. I decided I would do one this is for freestyle and for people who are endurance swimming. This is not Michael Phelps, but it is my 10 tips to smooth gliding swimming. So I hope you like it. Okay, so tip number 1, I call it breathe easy. Now, not surprisingly, when you look back, breathing with your head in the water is quite a almost panic thing for people when they first start swimming. And it can upset them trying to do anything else because all they can think about is this head in the water, I can't breathe. And so my message to you is just relax. I find that people tend to do one or two things. Either when they've got their head in the water, they just hold their breath in, and so what happens is they gradually are getting more and more desperate to breathe, and then when they breathe it's a huge big gasp. Or what they do is they try and breathe out so quickly that actually they breathe all of the air out when their head's still down, so by the time they come up to breathe, once again they're gasping. We don't want any gasping. The message I give is you're almost going to breathe just like you normally breathe. So the trick is, when you're in the water, you take a breath, no big breath in, and once your head's down, it's just a constant, gentle bubble breathing out of your nose or your mouth, it doesn't matter. Don't push all of the air out, and just make sure as you're coming back up to your next breath, you're still breathing out. You take a gentle breath, head down again, and do the same. So that's the message, okay? Breathe easy. And if you can sort out your breathing to start with, then when you're trying to concentrate on all of the other stuff, the breathing panic is gone, and you'll be able to focus on doing those other techniques. Okay, so what I'd like you to try, just to illustrate what I'm doing is, I'm going to show you, I'd like you to, first of all, just take a breath, and then hold your breath in the water until you're out of breath, and then lift your head up, just like this. Okay, so you can feel almost when you come up how you're almost gasping, getting ready to take the next breath. The next time you try is this time to blow all the water out until you've got no more air, and then lift your head up and breathe. So this time we're going to blow out. And once again, when I come up, I feel like I've got to take a big breath. Whereas if you just do it almost like normal breathing, where you just take a gentle breath in, gently blow it out, lift your head up and breathe again, like this. Breathing should be as easy as that. Okay, have a practice yourself. So, tip number 2 is head down so you don't sink. And the message here is that, I'm going to try and show you here, where if your head is down, what happens is naturally your body and legs particularly will come up to the surface. If you have your head up, then you naturally sink. And the worst thing, obviously, when you're learning to swim, is that you feel like you're being dragged along the water, you're under, which we all do to start with. And what does that do? It sort of then puts all the focus on you trying to pull. If you imagine some dogs you see in a river or somewhere, you see some of them are just natural swimmers, and you see other ones are doing this, that's generally because their legs are down. So, the message here is, once you've conquered your breathing, and you're confident you can put under your head without fear, is look down at the bottom of the pool, or very slightly forward. And I'll try and illustrate it here by holding on the side and putting my head down and see what happens to my legs, and then what happens when I lift my head up. Okay? Yeah, I think. So it's exactly the same with your swimming. So as you're going along and conquered your breath, just look down at the bottom of the pool. You're lucky in here because you'll always have some lines to follow. Just concentrate on following the lines. Okay? So that's the message. Keep your head down. Okay, so tip number 3 is reach out when you rotate. It also helps with breathing, but I'll get to that in a minute. So what a lot of us tend to do when we first start swimming is a little bit of a caveman thing. All this. Yeah, that's what we think this is going to help us pull along. Whereas actually what we want to do is you want to reach out. Yeah, with each stroke, almost grab as if you're trying to grab something, not exaggerated, but you're reaching out, yeah, and then you pull your stroke through. When you rotate, yeah, exactly, you reach out. So what I'll do is I'll show this as an example. When I do it to help reaching out, I also turn my palm in. So as I come out and I'm stretching out, I turn my palm in. Just helps me rotate before I start my stroke. So we'll do a little bit down here just to show how reaching out just makes you naturally rotate about 45 degrees evenly as you go down the pool. So hopefully you've seen how reaching out, you almost want to feel like your shoulder touched your cheek is the way of, as you rotate. There's a nice stretch out, yeah? Same with the other side. Then we add in just the breathing. Now, some people breathe both sides, some people breathe every 4. Generally, I always just breathe one side. You will find that you generally have one side that feels more comfortable with the other. You should practice both sides, particularly for open water swimming for triathlons in case the wind is a particular way. Generally, I always breathe to the right way. So, as you rotate, all you want to do is, because you've been just gentle breathing, yeah, just blowing the bubbles out, is just to turn your head, yeah, as you stretch out. In my case, with my left arm. Don't pull the head back, because that can actually cause a twist on the body. Don't lift the head, because then your legs will sink. All you want to do is just gently lift your head up, take a nice breath. The water will just be sort of, one eye. Take a gentle breath and back into the water. Do the other side, bring it back, and your rotation gently through. Simple as. Okay, so we'll go back down and I'll just show you doing breathing every 2 strokes. Okay. Okay, tip number 4. Never cross your hands past 12 o'clock. Let me explain. So when you're coming through with your stroke, it's quite common as you rotate that your arms end up crossing. You come back with this one and you end up crossing. So it does several things. One, you end up over-rotating, yeah, losing your balance. Secondly, you're not getting nearly as efficient pull. And thirdly, what happens is that the over-rotation makes you instinctively put your legs out. And so you find your legs doing a sort of wide civically. All of those things you don't want to happen. So the trick is, when you're swimming, to imagine that you have a clock in front of you. So you've got 12 o'clock, which is the middle, and ideally you want your 2 hands to be going in parallel to your shoulders. So the trick to what I was trying to do is imagine that your right hand is going to 2 o'clock and your left hand is going to 10 o'clock. Now it'll feel slightly strange, it feels like you're going really wide. The fact is, when I do this now, you will see actually your hands are pretty parallel. So that's the trick. Never cross over the 12 o'clock. And imagine your clock and do 10 to 2 when you do it, which I'll demonstrate. Tip number 5, high elbow for high power. So what I'm saying here is, as we stretch out into the water, we've got nice rotation, we start to feel the water and we're going to pull back. And what most people tend to do when they start is that when they've got their elbow out, they keep a straight arm and they go for a big long stroke. Rather than actually, as they start to feel the water, is to crank the elbow and then use the bottom part of the arm for the power. And to illustrate this, I'd like to imagine that if you were here and there was an egg sat on the side of the pool and I asked you to break it, if I was to put my hand out and try and break the straight arm, yeah, it would be quite difficult. Whereas if my arm is like an elbow and I go and press the egg, not down the way, but even if I just press it with my elbow, I'm using all of these muscles rather than just the side. So it's exactly the same with the pull. Yeah, what you don't want to be doing is having this big long arm. It is really hard and you don't get the power. What you want to do is, the instinct is, once you start to feel the water, is to bend the elbow. One thing to remember when you're doing this is that as you learn to do it, there is sometimes, because the brain is trying to understand what you do, is that as you bend this elbow and you're stretching out this arm, you end up bending the left arm. So you've got to train your brain to divorce your left arm from your right arm to make sure that as you're going into the water and you're bending this elbow, this arm is still going out into a nice long stretch. Okay? So I hope you get the idea. Principle is, as you reach for the water, high elbow, make a nice, imagine this is like an oar or a piece of wood. Yeah, it's going to be the one that powers back. Okay, so we're going to go down the side of the pool now. And my videographer friend John here, he's just going to try and focus in on the right arm as I'm going. And hopefully you'll see as I rotate out, then the elbow and then the push through, pull through, sorry. Tip number 6, pull all the way through. So the process should feel like, as you stretch out, you start to feel the water, bend the elbow to create the wave, and you now have your oar. Keep your arm vertical all the way down to probably your waistline before then you push out and back. And it should feel like a progressive stroke. You're catching the water, gathering it, and then you pull through and then relax the arm coming back. And when you're doing this pull, it should feel relatively straight down the side of the body, down to the waist. And what I would do as a tip is, when you're training, or you can do it all the time, is with your thumb, just touch the side of your thigh as you're recovering the water out. So you're catching, elbow, down the side of the body, catch the thigh with your thumb, and then recover. Okay, so we'll just try that again, going down the side here to show what we're doing. Tip number 7, your arms are always on the move. Now, what's going to happen to you as you begin to gather these techniques, and I can still remember this many years ago, is that you suddenly cross over from someone who feels like they're pulling themselves through the water, a bit draggy, legs down, to suddenly you're gliding on top of the water. And I tell you, when you achieve it, it is magical. Swimming is never the same again once you suddenly feel like you're up on top of the water. So in that moment, what sometimes can happen is, it feels so good, is that as you go out to reach for this one, you're feeling really good and you realise you're bringing this arm back before you started this one. Now you can do a good drill, by the way, which is called catch up, if you want to practice rotation, and you actually do physically catch up and then do the other one. But in real swimming, the reality is that if you bring this arm out and then bring this, you're actually slowing down. So the rhythm should really be that actually, as you're stretching this arm out, you're taking your stroke, this arm out, stretching your stroke, so the arms are always on the move. Yeah, don't let yourself start to do this, yeah, as you're gliding. And that's what happens, is it feels so great. You feel like you're floating along the top of the water. And you really feel it when you're coming into the end. You can stop swimming and you just glide into the end. It's great. What I tend to do is, because I sometimes forget, is that as I come forward with this arm and I'm doing the other one, I trigger by starting to push my palm down, which immediately makes me start to use this arm into the pull. So if you want, once you've stretched out, this one, start moving your palm down immediately, will then get your body to start doing the stroke. So what we'll do is we'll do one where you'll see I'm doing this catch-up part, and you'll see me sort of slowing down and going, and then in the same swim, I'll move into doing proper rotation. Okay? Okay, tip number 8. There's a bit of blooping. Okay, ready? Still rolling. Oh God. Tip number 8. Kick in rhythm with your arms. Now when it comes to kicking, there are various techniques. A lot of people do what they call a 6-beat kick. So it's kind of 3 kicks per stroke. Yeah, it's just a gentle, not too much with the knees, more from the hips. And they're doing 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. What I prefer to do, and the other technique, is a 2-beat kick. Primarily I did it because obviously I've then got to cycle 180k and then a 42k run. So I'm trying to keep my legs. But actually, once you've got to the magical bit where you're floating along the top of the water, your kick can provide power. So clearly if you're doing short distances, you will be doing a much faster kick. But actually, in endurance swimming, the kicking is actually helping just to balance the rotation of the body and keep yourself on top of the water. So, we're going to demonstrate here because I do a 2-beat kick. Now, you can do this either way around. You will find some people who will say that you kick the same leg down with the arm. I used to do that, but I found it maybe slightly unbalanced. So I changed because other people do opposite. So when they're doing the left stroke, it's the right kick down. Amazingly, if you learn one, I tell you it takes some time to unwind your muscle memory because it becomes completely automatic to be able to do the other. So I do a 2-beat kick and I do opposite side to my arm. So we're going to try and demonstrate. Okay? Well, every day is a learning day. It turns out that I do same leg, same arm, when I was convinced I was doing it the other way around. There you go. Okay, so obviously I hope you saw it, and I did it a bit exag where I was slapping my feet on the water. Now obviously you wouldn't do that so much in real life because obviously if your feet are out of the water they're not doing anything. But what I will say is I like to feel the top of the water. Maybe not every kick, but because it's very reassuring to me that I know that I am up on the top of the water, therefore I'm gliding along. And hopefully right at the end there, I deliberately stopped swimming and you saw me just glide straight into the end of the pool. That's the beauty once you're up on top of the water. Okay, so tip number 9 is still to do with kicking, but keep your feet together. And remember I talked to you earlier about people, if you're crossing, what happens is people tend to start scissor kicking and going with a wide kick. Wide kick is not good because it upsets the balance of the body. You want to feel like you're in a tube as you're going along, reaching out in the tube and your whole body nice and narrow. You don't want anything that's causing this lateral movement. So the trick to do is, if you want to practice it, is as you do your kick in my 2-bit, your 2 big toes, just touch your 2 big toes together. Just they're skipping. It becomes natural, but sometimes it's very good discipline, a bit like the crossing. Practice that 10 to 2 because you do forget. Is practice just touching your big toes together to keep those legs together. Okay, tip 10 is take your time, relax and enjoy the transformation of your swimming. It takes time, but if you focus on it, I'd really recommend joining a swim club or a triathlon club. They have great coaches who will, in a matter of 3 or 4 weeks, focus on these areas that I've talked about and others and transform your swimming. So take each one at a time, try and do everything. Don't do it all the time. Sometimes it's a good idea just to swim, but focus on one thing because your brain needs to learn the muscle memory to do it. So remember my tips that I said. 1, breathe easy. The most important thing is to be comfortable with your head in the water and breathing. It overtakes and confuses everything else. Tip 2, head down. That means legs up. Don't bring your head up, otherwise you'll sink and that's you dragging through the water. Remember to reach out, yeah? Reach out as if you're trying to catch something in order to make sure you rotate nicely and grab the water. Never cross at 12 o'clock, even I do, yeah? So just remember you've got a big clock there, go wide, 10 to 2. It won't actually be 10 to 2, but you want to be parallel. But make sure, sometimes just look at yourself and see if there's arms coming down into your chest. High elbow, I said for high power. So once you've done your nice catch, you've caught this body of water, crack the elbow, catch this water and use this as an oar, yeah? And when you're doing this, it's an acceleration of stroke all the way through and then out of the back. Number 7, keep your arms on the move. Once you're gliding as a temptation, this is great. Don't let the other arm catch up. It's always a rotation, otherwise you'll be slowing down. Remember I said, kick in rhythm with your arms. I do 2 beats, opposite, you can do same size if you prefer. So nice, gentle kicking in rhythm with your arms. That stops any nasty twisting of the body. And remember I said, keep the feet together. If necessary, touch the big toes. You don't want any big wide legs because that starts upsetting the balance of the body. And remember, as you're swimming, it's almost imagine like you're in a tube. And so all of the stuff that you're doing parallel is swimming through this tube. Your whole body is nice and tense around the core. The legs aren't wide, your arms and everything are pulling through. And if you do all of those, I promise you will be rewarded with a transformation in swimming and become an absolute pro. So I hope these tips helped. Obviously, if you've got any comments to make, and I'd be delighted to hear. And I'd also really like it if you've taken these tips and improved your swimming. If you'd like to comment it in a month's time or 2 months, it would be really nice. Enjoy your swimming, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.